Parliament's duty to investigate and hold the executive to account. Honorable Steenhuisen.
Order, House Chair.
Order. Honorable
House Chair.
Steenhuisen, you can take a seat. Sure. Order, honorable member, what's the point of order?
House Chair, I'm rising on Rule 90, the rule on anticipation. It is my view, Chairperson, that if this House can continue on this debate, the House will be grossly out of order.
Honorable member, what do you mean?
Point of order, sir.
Order, can we allow the member to finish? Can you take a seat,
Yes.
sir?
Okay. This debate, House Chair, takes place at a time when Parliament is busy investigating matters pertaining to state capture. And what worsens the situation is the fact that the members of Parliament who serve as panelists in the investigation are debating. And the fact that they are debating means that they will be debating having some conclusions on matters pertaining to the matter under investigation. And I therefore, House Chair, request you to put this motion aside so that the investigation by Parliament can reach its logical conclusion. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I've noted your point of order, honorable member. Let me take the other point of order and then I'll reflect on the matter you've just raised. Honorable member.
Thank you, Chair. We really appreciate you giving us the opportunity to talk to this matter. We cannot take that invalid view. We haven't asked for an opinion as to whether I want to discuss this or not. We are Parliament. This matter is not sub judice, it's being investigated by Parliament. He must go somewhere if he's got a different view. We are going to expose serious things here. Thank you.
Honorable Khawula.
Thanks, Chair. Chair, I want to give guidance to the member. I think he's ill-informed. There is no investigation that Parliament is pursuing. It's only an inquiry. Those are two different things with different implications. So he must withdraw. He thought there's an investigation. There's no investigation. There's an inquiry. Thank you, Chair. So can we proceed?
Honorable...
Chairperson, if you look at Rule 91, the rule of anticipation, it says no member may anticipate the discussion of a matter appearing on the order paper. There's no other matter appearing on the order paper about state capture, or agreed upon by the programming committee for scheduling. There's no other debate scheduled relating to state capture by the programming committee. So the honourable member from the ANC is wrong on two accounts.
Honourable Chairperson.
Order. Honourable Mabe, what's your point of order?
Caucus gone rogue, Mr. Chief Whip.
The honourable member from the Democratic Alliance just used Rule 90 in terms of anticipation. Yes, I agree. The rules are clear that no member may anticipate the discussion of a matter appearing on the order paper or agreed upon by program committee for scheduling. But in all fairness, Honourable Chairperson, the...
Order, honourable members. Order. Let's allow the honourable member to raise her point of order.
The subject on the order paper, it is... You are captured.
Order.
I'm not captured by anybody. You are captured.
Honourable Mabe, can you address the chair?
The item on the order paper, it has captured interest of South Africans because individuals were called in a certain committee. Whether that was investigation or how the member of the EFF has explained it, but the fact of the matter is that people were called in to come and account before Parliament. So it will only be fair and just that individuals are afforded an opportunity at least to be presented by a report. There should be findings after any investigations or any probe. So it will only be fair that this House, we do the right thing, we do the honorable thing, It cannot also be, and the report must be tabled in Parliament for consideration and adoption. So we cannot try and...
Point of order.
Order, honorable members.
We should not try and find the
Order.
easiest way of dealing with this matter. Let us
Honorable
follow
members.
the rules. And if the very same issue was happening
On what-
against the DA,
Honorable members.
they were going to
Honorable Mabe.
interdict. So
Honorable Mabe, can we stick on the point of order? Let's not try and engage on the debate. I'm allowing points of orders. Honorable Deputy Chief Whip of the Opposition, I've noted you, but there are two members before you who requested a point of order. Honorable Mabe, I've noted your earlier point, but can I ask all members, let's not engage with the debate until you allow the chair to respond. Honorable Singh, followed by Honorable Mulder.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. I don't know if you want to respond to the initial points of order before we make our submissions and points of order.
Are you making another point of
Yes.
order?
The point of order is that we are not discussing state capture. The motion is not about state capture, but it's about Parliament's duty to investigate and hold the executive to account. Now, that's completely different from investigating state capture. And we as Parliament have a responsibility to talk about our own affairs.
Okay. Thank you, Honorable Mulder.
Honourable Chairperson, it makes one think, why does the ruling party under no circumstances want to discuss this subject? The fact, Madam Chairperson, is that the honourable member who took the point of order in the first instance relied on Rule 91 and 2. It's quite clear from Rule 90 that it's not applicable at all. Not at all with regard to this debate this afternoon. So in terms of a legal position, there's no substance in that point of order, is my view. Secondly, this discussion does not preempt whatever may come out of Parliament's process. At the time when Parliament concludes its business, if there are any reports, Parliament will discuss it at that stage. This is not preempting this. This is a different discussion, and I'm of the view that Rule 90 does not apply. We should proceed immediately.
Thank you. Order. Honorable members, can I just come back to all of you? The member who raised the point of order in the beginning relied on point 90, which really is about the scheduling of the debate. Point 1 and 2, as articulated in those rules, talks about a member may not anticipate the discussion of a matter appearing on the order paper or agreed to by the program committee for scheduling. In respect of that rule 90.1, there is no other debate that has been scheduled. This is the only one, so that would fall away. Secondly, with respect to rule 90.2, in determining whether a discussion is out of order on the grounds of anticipation, the presiding officer must consider whether it is probable that the matter anticipated will be discussed in the House or at a joint sitting within a reasonable time. Indeed, honorable members, when the Speaker considered this debate having been approached, in her consideration, as well as the National Programming Committee, which then agreed to schedule this matter, there is no other debate that is anticipated in the immediate that will reflect or debate the same matter. So I want to say, on the grounds of Rule 90, and the Speaker having considered this matter, and the Programming Committee, it did not see that the discussion on this matter will in any way contravene these rules. I've listened. Order, honorable members. So on the grounds of that point of order, I would say that it cannot be sustained. Secondly, there are other issues that have been raised in respect of this matter by honorable members. As it is indicated, in the broad debate, it really is not about the current inquiry into ESCOM, which is a specific matter that the Parliament is in process of undertaking. However, what I picked up from what members were raising is the caution that in so doing, even though this broad debate is being undertaken, it must be important that, in particular, those members who sit in that committee might be cautious in how they engage, such that it may not in itself, their participation, render the very inquiry obsolete, where other members may feel that by coming into it, they might have been prejudged. I took that as a caution that was being made. So I just want to say that from the Speaker and the National Programming Committee, there was nothing that was seen as untoward by having this debate continue. I'll therefore allow the member to start with the debate.
Thank you very much, House Chair. If ever there was a reason for this House to be having this debate today, it was confirmed in glorious Technicolor yesterday evening. Watching the clip from Gupta TV of the gang of 6 ANC MPs defending state capture, tearing viciously into their own chief whip, as well as their colleagues on the Public Enterprises Committee, and threatening to disrupt this debate, as we've seen them start off today, indicated that it would not go ahead. And that proved why this debate today is so essential. And so I think we should start, as the Honourable Godon has told us.
Order, Chair.
Honourable Steenhuisen, you can take your seat. What's the point of order, Honourable
Chair, I
Member?
think Honourable Steenhuisen, if ever is going to accuse any member of this House, must raise a substantive motion first before he raises anything, because he refers to the members of this House. Thank you.
Honourable members, if you can just clarify, Honourable Member, what is the point of the accusation so that I can ask with the table for assistance.
Honourable Steenhuisen is just accused that there are other members of this House who went and rampaging, insulting the chief of the House.
Honourable members, I wish to listen to the member who's raising a point. Honourable member, you can proceed.
On a point of order, Madam Chair.
Order, honourable member, can we allow the member, Buthelezi, who's just addressing the chair?
Honourable Steenhuisen has raised that there are members of this House who are taking the chief whip of the majority party of this Parliament, of which I think he must raise a substantive motion in raising an accusation around the members of this House.
Thank you, honourable member. I would reflect on that one, whether it really applies in respect of the rule that you want us to deal with. I'll reflect and I will come back to the House.
Chairperson, may I address you?
Yes, what is the point
Chairperson,
of
it's
order?
obviously quite clear that ANC's tactic is to raise frivolous points of orders in order to frustrate the debate, because you're embarrassed about what's going to be said here today.
Honourable
and rightfully
Waters.
so, you should be
Honourable
embarrassed.
Waters.
Facts. We want the proof.
Order.
Not embarrassed. We want
Why is he
members. Honourable members, can you please not all stand while you are not pointed? I was listening to Honourable Waters on the point of order. I will address that point of order. Can we please try and just have some kind of a decorum?
Continue.
You have raised the point.
Yeah,
sir.
what I was saying, Chair, is no wonder why the ANC are embarrassed about this debate. But may I appeal to you to stop frivolous points of orders in order for us to get on with this debate, and so that the public can hear the real story about the ANC.
Honourable Waters, thank you. At the moment, there was no frivolous point of order. Honourable Buthelezi raised his point, and I said to him, in as far as the point of order he's raising, based on what Honourable Steenhuisen, I will actually reflect on that matter, whether it does indeed come to be a matter of a point of order that this House can rule on. So I don't regard that as a point of frivolity. Honorable Member of the EFF, I will come to you, Honorable.
Thank you, Chairperson. No, Chairperson, if you can just be firm on this, because as a public representative myself, I think this is a very important matter which needs us as people of this country to engage on and demonstrate to our people out there that we cannot allow our country to be hijacked whilst we live.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable Member.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Honorable Chairperson, I want to appeal to you that you must please ask the member on the podium that he must withdraw the statement referring to honorable members, 6 honorable members as a gang. He must withdraw that. If he does not withdraw that, we will not allow him to continue speaking. That's the first point. We will not allow him to speak. He must withdraw that.
Order.
He must not refer to honorable members as a gang.
Honorable Member, can you take your seat? Honorable Member, there was no direct inference to any member. So I would really allow us to continue the debate. Honorable Hlengwa, sorry, Honorable Waters, can you please take a seat?
Now, Honorable Chairperson, I think for the record, it would be very bad if Honorable Buthelezi was associated with defending this debate from going on. It is not Honorable Buthelezi, it's Honorable Khatebe.
Oh, I'm sorry, Honorable
that Sheng
Khatebe.
is not implicated in defending what he's saying.
Order, Honorable Hlengwa, my apologies, Honorable Khatebe. Can I allow Honorable Steenhuisen to continue the debate? Honorable Waters, what is the new point of order?
Chair, if I may, Honorable Dick said that...
Point of order. On the point of
Honorable
order.
members.
On the point of order.
Order.
On the point of order.
Order. Honorable Dick,
On the point of order.
can you take a seat?
That's why.
Honorable members, can I really appeal to you not to descend this House into chaos? Honorable Waters, can you please take a seat? Yes, I've switched on the mic because there's a bit of exchange and I'm avoiding the House to descend on chaos, into chaos. Honorable Deck, can you take a seat? Can you take a seat? Honorable Waters, the name of the honorable member who you wanted to address is Dex. So I think it's order, honorable members. Honorable members, I think it is important that all of us, no matter the differences that we have had or we are having as political parties, that we show a modicum of respect to one another. And I don't think it is funny. Each one of us, our parents named us properly, and I think it is just not correct that we would address each other in a manner that actually is not the appropriate way in which to address. Honorable Waters, what's your point of order?
Chair, I apologize if I pronounced
You
the
did
name wrong.
pronounce it wrongly.
I'm sorry. Chair, the honourable member, I won't use his name in case I pronounce it incorrectly, threatened that if the honourable Steenhuisen doesn't withdraw, he won't be able to continue the debate. That's a threat to Parliament, and the honourable member should withdraw that. That's a direct
Honourable
threat to
members.
you and your
Honorable
authority in
members,
this House, Chair.
you know, I would have loved really to hear what the member said, because in the context of this discussion, all of you are speaking, impairing the chair not to even hear who is saying what. And I don't think it's fair. You want me to rule when I have not heard, because all of you are heckling one another, doesn't facilitate fairness in the way in which I rule. So I won't rule on that matter, Honorable Waters, because I didn't hear. Can you please proceed, Honorable Steenhuisen?
So I think as we should start, as the Honourable Godon has said so many times before, to join the dots. And when you do that, you have to ask, whose interests are these members serving? Certainly not the people of South Africa's, certainly not our democracies, and definitely not this Parliament's. It was nothing more than a poorly executed dance of subversion to the Gupta masters, who are no doubt carefully choreographing this afternoon's charade from the confines of their Saxonwold shebeen. But I think that it's important to note that just last week, the high-level panel headed by former President Kgalema Motlanthe released its report. It's a fascinating document which should be compulsory reading for every single member of this House. It is an indictment on the failures of this House and a major wake-up call for all of us. The panel calls on us for much more effective oversight of the executive and a far more activist Parliament, not simply a rubber stamp processing the work of the executive. But perhaps most worrying, and something which should concern every single member of the House, is the section dealing with trust in institutions. Public trust in Parliament has declined massively, from 65% in 2009 to just 38% in 2015. And the question we have to ask ourselves as members of this House is why? Well, when you begin to join the dots, it's easy to see. In 2009, a certain Mr. J.G. Zuma was elected as the president and set about turning this Parliament into his poodle and adding it to a growing collection of captured institutions. Since then, we have experienced the SABC crisis, the mining crisis, Visagate, Nkandla-gate, Nene-gate, Sasa-gate. And each step of the way, this House has simply rolled over and let the executive ride roughshod over it. Attempts to hold the executive accountable have been thwarted by ministers who don't appear, don't answer questions, and don't feel that they're accountable to this House and the people through it. They tend to choose overseas trips over their constitutional obligations to account. Let's not forget that it was this very Parliament, without calling him to appear before a single committee of the House, shamefully absolved the President of any wrongdoing on Nkandla. It was left up to the Constitutional Court to step in and do the job for us and hold the President accountable. And it's not like the House has learnt a single thing from that lesson. Just last week at this podium, the President, on one of his paltry 4-day visits per year to Parliament, was protected from asking a question that had been on the order paper and with his office for over 14 days. The problem is we have an executive who ride roughshod over the House and are protected from being held accountable by presiding officers who see it as their role to protect them rather than to protect the members of this House in discharging their functions. Just last night, the Speaker of the National Assembly was on Radio 702, waxing lyrical about the President's dignity. Dignity? When is the Speaker going to start standing up for the dignity of this House, which has been systematically abused by an executive and a presidency that has gone rogue? It's little wonder that the people, as the high-level panel reaffirms, are losing faith with this House as it continues to break its covenant to serve the people's interests and instead serves the executive's interests. Despite all this, I don't think that anything could have prepared any member of this House, except those involved, of course, for the revelations that emerged through the Gupta leaks. Finally, the vast network was laid bare for all to see. The tentacles of influence, subversion, and deceit extending from Saxonwold through the union buildings, into government departments, through them into our state-owned enterprises, and deeper still into our provincial and local governments.
Order. Honourable Member, can you take your seat? What's the point of order, Honourable Member?
I just want to know if the member is prepared to take a question about the way he left the Tekwini municipality.
Honourable Member.
I left the Tekwini municipality because I was promoted to the provincial legislature. But let me tell you something. What the honourable member is confusing it with is the fact that I left the KZN legislature for a matter in my private life. But let me tell you something that I've learned in my 20 years in politics. Those people who are so obsessed about what's happening in other people's bedrooms have very little going on in their own. The flurries of emails, databases, and communications exposed each terrible tentacle sucking up opportunity and huge sums of public money.
On the point of order, Madam Speaker.
What is the point of order?
The point of order is
That this member serves the people of KZN in the legislature, or that he serves his colleagues' wives? in KZN?
Honorable Member Dirk, that's not a point of order. That's not a point of order. Order, Honorable Member. Can you proceed, Honorable Stenhuisen?
Oliver Tambo will be turning in his grave when he sees the quality of ANC MPs sitting on these benches today. That's the best they can come up with. This is a man who can't even pay his municipal rates account when he's a deputy mayor of the town.
On the point of order.
Order, honorable members. Can we really please allow ourselves to proceed with the debate? Parties, order. All parties have an opportunity to engage in this debate. And Honorable Dex, I would really appeal to you to sit down, because you raised a point which then required an answer to yourselves, because you did not even allow the chair to rule. And I would really ask you to sit down.
Let him continue with
order.
The allegations of
Honorable Member.
He must continue.
Honorable Dex. Honorable Dex, I really think you are out of order. You can't threaten the House. You can't do that. You cannot choose. You cannot choose how you want to throw stone on others, and when they throw them back to you, then it's an issue. I think all of us, we have got party representatives that will participate in the debate. And I think, Honorable Member, I want to address all of you. Let's stop being personal. From all sides, let's stop being personal. Because I really think that does not act, in terms of our own decorum as these members. When you start bringing personal issues of people, who they do with what, I don't think that this is what we're here about. Honorable Dex, I would really ask you to take a seat. Can you proceed, Honorable Member? No. Honorable Buthelezi?
Honorable.
Order, Honorable Kawula. Honorable Kawula. Honorable Kawula, I've addressed you earlier. You don't just speak. You ask for a point of order. Honorable Buthelezi.
Honorable Deputy Chair, I'm disappointed in you, ma'am, because you've been over-generous. I think this gentleman, our honorable member, has abused all of us. And we have a right to say, if he doesn't comply to your order, that he must leave the House. Because we are always the darling of all of us because of the way you conduct debates in this House. I don't see why you don't use your powers to chuck him out of the House.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable Stenhuisen, can you proceed?
Well, hopefully the Powers and Privileges Committee is going to do just that, Honourable Buthelezi. There were a flurry of emails, databases and communications, each one exposing the terrible tentacles sucking up opportunity and the huge sums of public money away from its intended purposes and into the pockets of the Guptas, the Essers, the Ngubanis, the Shlongwanas and the Zumas. And before they take a point of order, I'm talking about Edward and Duduzane. While the people of the Vrede Dairy Project languish in abject poverty, the money intended for them was used to pay for a wicked wedding, for champagne and caviar, and for which these obscenely rich individuals and families quaffed back, all the while laughing, while the poor suffered. And what was this House's response to the daily barrage of revelations of captured ministers put in place, as we now read in the shocking revelations in the book Enemy of the People, not to be faithful to the Republic, as they swore in their oath, but rather to be faithful to the interests of the Gupta family? Well, a whole 6 months ago, the House Chairperson wrote to the Chair of 4 portfolio committees. Sorry, Chair, this time has been... No ways. Okay.
It's not been tampered with.
Okay. Well, a whole 6 months ago, the House Chairperson wrote to the chairs of 4 portfolio committees, Home Affairs, Public Enterprises, Transport, Minerals and Energy, instructing them to urgently probe the allegations. Rather like the curate's egg, the response has been excellent in parts, but bad in others. Only the Public Enterprises Committee seems to have acted with any urgency in dealing with the matter, and not without significant resistance, as we've seen today, from many on these benches. Members of all parties on this committee must be complimented on their bravery, work and dedication in difficult circumstances. But the truth is they still have a long way to go. They've dealt with Eskom only. We've still got to get to the surface of Transnet and Denel, where even further indications of the rot continue and reside. But what has happened outside this committee? The Home Affairs Chairperson has done everything he can to thwart efforts by members to conduct a probe into the Home Affairs-related aspects of state capture. To date, former Home Affairs Minister Malusi Gigaba has not once been called to explain why he used executive privileges to grant citizenship to the Gupta family members when the original sponsor and applicant did not complete the process. What progress has the Transport Committee made? Why has the state capture report of the public sector not been forwarded to a committee? Why, too, that the revelations that the Guptas were provided with secret cabinet memorandum by a former communications minister?
Chair.
What's your point of order?
My point of order, Chair, is the point of information. Honourable member, the issue of
Order.
on the issue of test of
Order, Honourable
Order,
member.
Chair.
Can you please take a seat?
He doesn't know what he's talking about.
Order.
I'm from that portfolio committee.
Honourable Khatebe, that's not a point of order. Can you proceed, Honourable member?
And most importantly, why has the President not appeared before a single one of the committees in this House to account for a single one of the serious allegations? Now, there are some today, like the people we heard on TV last night, who will argue that this is not this House's responsibility to investigate and hold the executive accountable. They will argue that the proposed Judicial Commission of Inquiry should do this. Funny though, it's the very same people who, when the opposition goes to court and beats them, argue repeatedly that the judiciary shouldn't do Parliament's work. Nothing could be further from the truth. The Constitution of the Republic makes it clear that Parliament is mandated to do the job that is required to get to the bottom of the scourge of state capture. It is provided with all the tools, both constitutionally and within our rules, to perform the function that it needs in holding the executive accountable. And it is obliged to do the job, because as a People's Parliament, it has a duty to act in the interests of the people of South Africa. Because in the final analysis, colleagues, if we don't, as Parliament, act and hold the executive accountable, who will?